Hello, welcome to Saints Live. I'm Kenzie Benali, and today the Saints are back in action Road to take on newly promoted. Hello, welcome to Saints Live. I'm here with my headphones. And today the Saints are back in action. Plenty to get through on today's show, and a stellar lineup of guests as always. I am delighted to say that joining us. I'm here with my headphones. Today the Saints are back in action, and joining us all the way from Norway, it is Saints legend Klaus Lundekvam. I'm going to pop these back on now so I can hear you. There we go. I think they're working again. Hello to you both. Welcome along. And Klaus, your first time on Saints Live. How are you?
I'm very good. Thank you, Kenzie. I'm very good. I'm very happy to join you and look forward to the game today, obviously, with the Southampton badge on me. And we look forward to hopefully a good result today. So great to join you.
Oh, well, it's absolutely fantastic to see you, Klaus. Loving the Saints hoodie as well. And Adam, lovely to have you back too.
Thanks, Kenzie. Yeah, it's great to be back and to see Klaus again as well. I mean, it's like it makes
time.
Yeah, it has been a long time. It makes me feel old. I'm sure it makes Klaus feel old. I was 20 years ago, basically, I started covering the club, and obviously Klaus was a huge part of Saints already then, and went on to become a complete legend. So yeah, and we sort of knew each other relatively well when he was at Saints. He was captain for a long time, and it's lovely to see him and catch up again.
Yeah,
good
most
times,
definitely.
Alan, good times.
Yeah.
Very good times indeed. And two very loyal servants to Southampton Football Club on Saints Live today, which is lovely. But we are going to have to jump straight into it because we've got under 15 minutes time to go now until we can break the team news here. We know that James Ward-Prowse is back in contention after serving his 3-match ban. The not such good news is that Armando Broja is out with an ankle injury. He will join Jack Stevens on the sideline, who is of course also a long-term absentee. But otherwise, to our knowledge, everyone else is fit and available. So, Klaus, seeing as though it is your debut on Saints Live, let's come to you first and get your thoughts on the way Southampton have started this season.
Well, I think with the sort of footballing head and my heart being at Southampton, I would have liked to see more points on the board, obviously. But sort of how we play football this season, I think is changed a little bit. With I think defensively we look more solid. I think we look more organised, and I think was a necessity for our progress. Really, I think last season we played a certain way of football and we stayed with it regardless of the opposition. I think Ralph has adapted well now to other teams. He can change formation, he can change the side a bit more than he did last season, and I think that's done as well. It's not many games that we've been outplayed. I think we look quite solid. What we've obviously lost, I think, is the cutting edge up front. Deciding to sell Danny Ings has obviously made his mark, but I do think we can be a force offensively. I think one of the main factors is Stuart Armstrong is been a long time absent for the club or been sidelined. To get him back, he is for me the link to the front two or the front players. So I would like to see him obviously back in good form. But considering where we are, I think there's a lot of positives, and I think we being more solid defensively. I think we look a better side. We're hard to break down. Obviously, I would have liked to see more points on the board, but obviously, I think there is positivities there to have a decent season.
Absolutely, most definitely. And Adam, Klaus saying there he'd like to see Stuart Armstrong involved. We know you're a fan as well. How do you see Ralph lining up the Saints today to take on Watford?
Well, it feels like it's $1 million question these days, doesn't it? Like, what's Ralph going to do next? And he does have options, which is a positive thing for him and for the club. And I guess you would say after the cup game against Chelsea in midweek, there's even more options. Obviously, change formation, and we saw a strong performance. We saw also a few players that have been on the sidelines come in and do really well. So he does have plenty of options. I would expect today he'll revert to the 4-2-2-2 formation. I'd be surprised if he didn't go back to that. Obviously, Prowsey's available again, which would be an obvious recall. I don't see why you wouldn't bring him back in. And I agree with Klaus. I mean, 100%. If Stuart Armstrong is fit and ready, he comes in for me, because I think he just is such an influential player for Saints, and he is that link for them between midfield and attack. And with all due respect to the other attacking players they've got, I think that is something that they really miss when he's not there. They don't have anybody else who really has those qualities. So if he's available, then for me, he's in. And then obviously we've probably got one or maybe two striker berths up for grabs today as well, which makes life interesting as well. Che Adams, Adam Armstrong, both will obviously be hoping. Nathan Redmond obviously has played up there as well, and has done pretty well. So yeah, I think there's quite a lot of options for Ralph today, but I would be surprised if he doesn't kind of go back to what I would call the league team, the league formation, but obviously with the addition of Prowsey and maybe looking at Stuart Armstrong and the change we know he's going to have to make up top.
Well, Klaus, let's get your thoughts on James Ward-Prowse then, shall we? Adam just said there, for him, he's an obvious recall. What does he bring to the side, and do you think he should come straight back into the team today?
Yes, I do. I think he's our leader. He's our captain. He will be the main voice in the dressing room, and to have the captain back is very important. And while he could contribute with on the pitch, obviously, it's very important, and it's very sort of reassuring for your teammates as well to have that captaincy normality back in the team. So I would expect Prowsey to go straight back into the team. And also, Prowsey has very good memories with playing against Watford. He scored 2 great free kicks against them last time around and last season. So I think he is most definite to go straight back in.
Well, absolutely. Well, not long to go, less than 10 minutes until we bring you that team news. Make sure you get in touch as well. Let us know who you would like to see in today's starting 11. But Adam, let's talk about Armando Broja then. I said at the top of the show that unfortunately he will be missed today. Obviously, he picked up an ankle injury, and it's a real shame because he's looked pretty impressive of late. And obviously the goal as well. Could you talk us through that one from last weekend?
Yeah, it is a shame, Kenzie. It's a real shame because he's really starting to find his feet at Saints now, you feel. And I'm not sure we expected him to be the guy that was leading the line this early in the season, but he kind of has got to that point. And the goal, I think, was a mark of quality. Obviously, it was a bit of a gift, a giveaway, but a great first-time ball. And just it's the way that he takes it. And I think Klaus will tell you as a centre-half, like when you look at the way he runs with pace and with power and with purpose. There's no kind of trying to be too clever, trying to cut inside, hold the ball up, and which gives a centre half a chance when you're on the turn like the defender is, and you've got a guy who's just going with that amount of purpose straight at you. It's very, very hard to do anything about it. Of course, you still have to have the quality to actually produce the finish. To score the goal, and he also had that, as he proved. I think, I can imagine that if Klaus was in the centre half shoes there, I think, he would agree that kind of pace and just power and directness is very hard to defend against.
Yeah, real shame he's missing.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about Fraser Forster then, shall we, Klaus? He's another player we should give a mention to because he put in a fantastic performance in the Cup on Tuesday. It's something we seem to talk about a lot here on Saints Live, but how do you assess the battle between Forster and McCarthy?
I think as a club, we're lucky to have 2 very good keepers. It's not often you sort of you have one clear number one. I think these 2, McCarthy and Foster, is it's very good, both of them. Obviously, Foster having that unbelievable game against Chelsea, but I do think that McCarthy will be back in goal today, and I would say he is my number one pick for Southampton, and I think he's more a modern keeper. I think they both great shot stoppers. I think the edge goes to McCarthy because he's better with the ball on his feet. His passing is better, and I think in day and age of football, you need to control the ball and have that ability as well. So I think McCarthy is the number one. But it's great to have when you put your number two like he did against Chelsea, and you perform like he did. It's a great security for Ralph to have.
Yeah, very welcome headache for Ralph, I'm sure. And speaking of Ralph, we are going to hear from him in just a moment, because one topic of the week is whether the Premier League should increase the number of permitted substitutions from 3 to 5. So before we get the thoughts of Klaus and Adam, here's what the Saints boss had to say about the matter.
Good afternoon, Ralph. We'll start with one of the big talking points in football, 5 substitutions. Your counterpart who you face at the weekend, Claudio Ranieri, says it's a good thing. Some people say it's not so good. What do you feel?
A fantastic thing. Absolutely. Always a fan. I don't know if it was one of the first who was speaking about that in Germany, and I was always part of giving us more opportunities, makes the game even quicker and enjoyable until the end. I mean, it's also nice to see when players are running out of energy and they're really fighting for everything. But I think with 5 subs, the quality of the game stays high until the last minute. And I'm absolutely a fan from the 5 subs.
Well, Klaus, let's get your thoughts on this first then, shall we? Because you've had 5 substitutions in the Norwegian League this season. Do you think it is good for the game, or does it just benefit the big teams with large squads?
Well, I think obviously, yes, it does benefit the big clubs with the squads they do have available. But I think it benefits everyone. I think it's 100% a good thing for football in general, and I think for teams like us as well. I think to have that option with 5 subs is good. I know Ralph is for it as well. So yeah, I think it's a positive thing for football. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's interesting.
And the experience the experience having it in Norway this season has been welcome for the domestic league here. So I think it's there to stay.
Well, really interesting to get your thoughts there, Klaus. And as you said, Ralph seems to be for it. He did say in a separate interview to that one that he likes the 5 substitutions idea because it can benefit the smaller teams who tend to do more running without the ball. Adam, would you be in agreement with that statement?
It's interesting. I feel a little bit like I've actually changed my mind, if I'm honest on this. I think to start with, I was relatively against this idea because I think in my mind, I just thought, well, this is going to favour the big clubs with the large squads of world-class players. But actually, I think when you consider it at Premier League level in isolation for a moment, that actually it probably is a good thing even for smaller clubs like Saints. But I think the other thing that is a big issue for the big clubs and the big players is they are being asked to play more and more matches on a global scale these days and at an increasingly high intensity physically and athletically. And one thing we do want is you want the best footballers taking to the pitch as often as possible. As fans, that's what we all want to see. So I do think we need to probably think about that and do something in order to protect the top players in the Premier League. My only fear is does this work if you trickle it down the leagues, professionally, semi-professionally, etc. I think there's a debate to be had on that, but I think in Premier League level in isolation, I actually think Ralph's right, and it probably would actually benefit rather than hinder a club like Southampton.
Yeah, certainly an interesting talking point, isn't it? But for now, we are going to focus on the team news. Lots of you have been speculating on Lianco, Jan Valery, Roman Perro, Ibrahima Diallo, Stuart Armstrong, Theo Walcott, Nathan Teller and Shane Long. Klaus, let's come to you then for an initial reaction on that Southampton starting 11.
Well, obviously, me and Adam was quite agreed on having Stuart Armstrong back in the team. Obviously, he's on the bench. I would like to see him starting, but it looks like Ralph has gone back to the league team in many ways. Obviously, it's a strong outing. Bednarek is back. Lianco did an unbelievable appearance against Chelsea, but obviously, you know what you get with Bednarek. He's solid. It's not many surprises for me. I think it's solid. It's our best sort of league team and who's played the most games. So it's quite predictable in a way that he changes back to what he knows best. I think, yeah.
Yeah, Adam, I'd imagine you'd echo those thoughts. I think that's a pretty fair analysis from Klaus that was perhaps, aside from the inclusion of Stuart Armstrong, the team we were expecting to see today.
Yeah, I think so, largely. I mean, I must admit, I thought maybe Perro would be back in at left back. So, I mean, the fact that Ralph's obviously gone with the sort of two right backs, if you like, and then move one is interesting. Prowsey back in, I think, is, as we chatted about earlier, is the obvious pick. I think Adams and Armstrong, it's a big game for those guys as well. I think to get back in and to have the opportunity to sort of re-establish themselves as not only individuals in the team, but a pairing as well, I think it's a big chance for them. And I actually think it's kind of a big chance for Nathan Redmond today as well. I mean, Nathan, it feels like perennially for the last few years we've been saying kind of he sort of feels like he's on the verge of really cutting through a very, very high level of play. And then he has a period where he does it, and then he has a period where he doesn't. But yeah, I mean, he's kind of played a good supporting role up top. But if he's going to be in the team regularly, it's going to be in one of these sort of slightly deeper, wide-lying positions. So I think for him, with the level of competition there is in those roles, every game that he gets in that position is actually crucial for him. And I think Watford are somewhat vulnerable in the wide areas. So I think for him, it's actually a big day today as well. So there's a lot to pick out of that team, I think. I think though it is kind of back to the league team, it is back to the league formation. I think there are a few interesting little nuances in what Ralph has done today, and it'll be fascinating to see how it works.
Absolutely. Well, we will speak about those wide players in a little bit more depth in just a moment. But Klaus, someone else who I think deserves a mention is Tino Livramento, because he could become, or he will become today rather, the third 18-year-old to start the first 10 matches of a Premier League season, which is incredibly impressive. What have you made to his start of the season so far?
Well, he's one of the best talents in the league, without a doubt. He's what he's shown in the first 10 matches there, coming from the academy squad in Chelsea, and go straight into the team, taking the tempo, the physical side of the game, is unafraid. He actually reminds me a little bit about a right-sided Gareth Bale with his tempo, with his sort of ability to skip past players. His speed, his knowledge, being 18 years old, is unbelievable. So he can be as good as he wants to, basically. And it's quite rarely you see talents like this. Obviously, we've had quite a few at Southampton. Gareth, I've just mentioned. Luke Shaw, obviously, is another one. So he's up there. He's up there with the best, and he does remind me about a young Gareth on the left side in defence, which I played with. And so, it's unbelievable talent. So look forward to following.
Oh, high praise indeed. And actually, two others who were receiving rather large high praise as well amongst our social channels is the two of you. Lots of those tuning in to the show today are delighted to see our guest lineup. Let's take a look at some of those comments, shall we? Carly on Facebook has says, Klaus is looking very well. Saints legend. Jordan's also got in touch. He's going for a 1-0 win today. Matt has said, come on, you Saints. Love you, Adam. We've got another comment here from Juicy on YouTube. He says, Lord Lindick Farm. So, how do you feel about those comments? High praise indeed.
Unbelievable, fantastic. Now, I'm so happy to join you guys and be involved in my beloved club. So, it's great. Thank you very much to everyone.
Yeah, it's lovely to have you both on the show, as we've said. Now, Adam, let's come back to something you touched on just a moment ago, the wide players then. So Moy Elianusi and Nathan Redmond are the players to get the nod from Ralph today in those positions. But with so many options, in your opinion, are they the right players to get at Watford?
Well, I kind of feel we obviously said at the top of the show, Stuart Armstrong. I'm going to work on the assumption that maybe Stuart's not 100% fit to start the game. So I'm just going to kind of work on that assumption because otherwise I would have him in my team personally. But I think, yeah, I mean, it's a really hard call to make that at the moment. And I don't envy Ralph having to make the decision on the wide players because he has got a lot of options out there. I think is trying to find the players that can unlock a team and unlock a defence. And I think Elianusi gets in because he's probably, though I don't think he's like for Stuart Armstrong, he's probably the nearest type of player they've got to that sort of link player. And then I think he likes to have somebody who's more direct, a direct runner with the ball, who will just get at defenders and cause more problems in that way, maybe try and get beyond the strikers as well. And I think that's why Nathan gets there. I think the interesting thing is, do I necessarily think that those two are like the most dangerous players they've got if everybody was on their day on top form? Possibly not. But right now, they're probably the most on-form players in those positions. So from that point of view, they deserve to play and they deserve their chance. So I think on balance, Ralph's got it right. But the encouraging thing about Saints at the moment is that they do have that strength in depth in those areas. They've got some players on the bench that can come on and change games, your Ginepos, your Tellers, people like that. And I think that's a really encouraging thing for them to actually have game changers on the bench rather than just sort of trotting out the same old options, which is perhaps where the kind of area that they've been stuck in for the last few years.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting battle against Watford today. And Klaus, you played against Watford many times, and I imagine most memorably for you was the FA Cup semi-final back in 2003. Talk us through your memories of that day.
Oh my God, Kenzie. What a day, and what a day for the club, obviously. Semi-final at Villa Park. You can see these pictures here. We were sort of dressed up, everyone, all the supporters who was there was dressed up in wigs and sort of makeup, and it was just an unbelievable day. Reaching the FA Cup final, winning this game 2-1 was one of my greatest moments. Obviously, going out in the FA Cup final at the Millennium Stadium was the prize for this, but leading up to the whole cup run and getting to the FA Cup final and watching these scenes, it's a long time I've seen these, but yeah, what an unbelievable great day for us as players. But I do remember the support we had after the game. We on the coach, and there was hundreds of people, supporters around us celebrating, all dressed up, and it was just an unbelievable memory for which I'm going to treasure the rest of my life.
Oh, absolutely. Unbelievable scenes there. And Adam, I believe I'm right in saying that you were there as well that day.
Yeah, I was covering the match. That was my first full season covering Saints that year. Just like seeing those pictures and hearing Klaus talk about it, it's like hairs on the back of my neck were standing up, because I still think, for me personally, it's a bit indulgent, but it's it's probably my favourite memory from the 18 years really of covering Saints that day, because it was just such a special day for the whole club, for the fans. It was amazing. And I think obviously Saints went into that, and it's unusual to get to a semi-final for Saints, obviously very unusual, and to go in as favourites and kind of fully expected to win. I felt sort of nervous for them, because you kind of thought, that's Saints being Saints throughout their history. Those are the kind of games that they lose, right? We all know that. So get the win was amazing. You look at it was a team, Klaus will tell you, but it was full of characters, full of characters. And, Gordon, I mean, I think he aged me about 40 years in the short time I was working with him. But yeah, it was fantastic times. I just, I did a column at that point in time for the Echo with Chris Marsden as well. And I'd got to know him fairly well. And I knew a couple of others like Klaus. And I just remember in the car park afterwards, like chatting to a few of the players like Klaus. And there was just a sort of overwhelming feeling of delight, and everybody was hugging each other. And it was just a very, very special feeling. And people always say to me, like, was the highlight covering the FA Cup final? And I always say, no, to be honest, I didn't really enjoy the FA Cup final that much. Maybe it's partly the result and things like that. But the semi-final, that was the one for me. That was so special, because it ended with just such an outpouring of joy. And that reminds you what football's all about.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah, what a day to be a part of, one that will live long in the memory for all of us, I'm sure. But let's shift our focus back on to the task at hand today then. Klaus, we are up against Claudio Ranieri today. It was a bit of a nightmare start to him in his new role against Liverpool, but a fantastic 5-2 win for them last time out. What do you make of him as a manager?
Well, Ranieri's been a long time, and obviously he's well known as a great manager. His aura, his sort of ability to get the best out of teams is always been his strength. We all remember what he did with Leicester in 2016 season. He taken the Premier League with Leicester. It's something that shouldn't happen. But it did, and he did it in the way that obviously he's got his style of football, like he believes in, and that's sort of quite basic, I would say. But he's very sort of organised. He likes his teams to be predictable defensively, very, very organised. But he's very effective when he gets teams going. He shows that they go from back to front very quickly, and they with accuracy and a lot of pace and commitment. So all the Ranieri teams has been good teams when he's been around. Obviously, he's only been there for 2 games, and it's been from 5-0 defeat to a crazy result against Everton away at Goodison. So. You don't know what to get today, but I think that could favour us in a way, because I think when they look at their schedule after today's game, there's so much pressure on Watford today, because they've got a horrendous run of games after us today. So I think there must be a lot of pressure on the players, on the fans, and everyone to win this game today. And I think if we can be solid the first 20 today and frustrate them a bit and take them on the counter and play our game, I think we be in for a good result. But I predict it'll be an open game today. But Ranieri is a clever manager. He's been around many years, and and also he's got a positive aura around him. I've met him quite a few times. He's a very likable guy. So be interesting to see what he can do with this Watford side.
Yeah, very interesting indeed. And Klaus, as you mentioned there, an incredibly difficult run of fixtures coming up for Watford. So let's take a look at some of those now, shall we? Arsenal, Manchester United, Leicester, Chelsea and Manchester City. So Adam, you think they'd really be pushing for 3 points in front of a home crowd today, but that could work in Southampton's favour perhaps?
Yeah, well, it could. If that is even remotely in the minds of the players, then it will, because at this stage of the season, you don't really expect the teams that are kind of middling, if you like, to the players to be feeling, huge amounts of pressure, really, because, Watford, if you just look at them in isolation, they're placed in the table, how many points you've got, you don't go, wow, they've had an amazing start, but you go, yeah, that seems okay now where they are, the number of points they've got, how far they are away from the relegation zone, you probably take it. But that's before you then look at the fixture list and you look at what they've had and what they've got to come. And yeah, I mean, nobody would want that run of fixtures. I mean, that is pretty much almost as bad as you could have handpicked if you were trying to. So yeah, that could play into Saints' favour. And Saints have got good memories. Vicarage Road's been relatively kind to them. I mean, Shane Long's on the bench today, so we might not see a goal after 7.79 seconds or whatever it was. But it's been a relatively happy hunting ground for Saints. So I also think from Saints' point of view, if you're talking pressure and you feel like there might be pressure on Watford, from Saints maybe it's the opposite today, because they've had a couple of really big home games. Now they're going away on the road. They know they're back at home again, and then they've got Norwich away. So they're kind of they're sort of the opposite. They're in a relatively kind run of fixtures. So while they still need to capitalise, they probably go there today, honestly, not feeling under massive pressure. It doesn't feel like this is a game you go with Watford. You feel like, God, they really need to win this to give themselves some breathing space. Saints probably don't feel that today. And if they can take advantage of that, then that keeps that pressure off when they return home again, which is exactly what you want for your team and for your squad. So, yeah, I mean, there's some interesting psychological aspects to this today, for sure. And I agree with Klaus that it's kind of a slightly difficult one to predict today, because I think the nature of Watford under Ranieri is that I think that they will be relatively unpredictable for a while. I don't think they're going to settle down anytime soon. So you're not quite sure what you're going to get from them. But Saints, if they can go there, they can be solid, they can play and express themselves without too much pressure, then yeah, I think they can take advantage of the fact that Watford, I feel like they will have in mind that they need to win this.
Well, we will come to you for your score predictions in just a moment's time. But before we do, we're just going to take one final look at our social channels, the comments coming into us there. Phil Winger says Broja will be a big miss today. Stephen Jones is also with us. Hello to you. He says, good luck, Saints. We'd love to see you come home with the 3 points. Come on, you Reds. That would be wonderful, wouldn't it? Lewis is also with us, and he says, good luck from New Zealand. Thank you very much for your support. David has commented saying, let's get the 3 points. Come on, Saints. And a final comment here from Kai Tizard on YouTube. He says, so nice to see Klaus, my youth hero. All the best. Legend, the Tower. Some more love flooding in for our lineup today on Saints Live. Klaus, let's come to you next then for your final word. The Hornets are coming into this game, as we've said, off the back of a fantastic win last weekend. How do you see this one going, and what's your score prediction?
I think it's a difficult one. It's a very open fixture, but I do think it'll be a high-intensive game. I think there'll be 100 miles an hour. I think if we can start the game well, be solid for the first 20 minutes, I think we can win this game. My prediction will be we win the game 2-1. Wins.
Okay, well, Adam, that suggests to me that you were going to say similar. You always do this one. That's what I was going to say. He's nodding away. Listen, you said it's been a happy hunting ground, Vicarage Road, for Southampton in the past. Are you thinking we'll get the 3 points on the road today there?
Kenzie, you know me so well already. It's too true. But basically what I always do, Klaus, just so you know, is that somebody guesses before me. I pretty much always will say, oh, that's what I was going to go for, and then go for something else, so that if you're right and I'm wrong, then I can go, yeah, but that was what I was going to go for, obviously. I took it first, so I had to go for something else. It's all tactics. But yeah, I kind of agree with everything Kyle said entirely, and yeah, I actually feel fairly chipper about Saints' chances today. I think this is a good fixture for them, and so yeah, with my prediction obviously now taken, no qualms. You know, Klaus, he deserves to go first. He's the legend. I'll go for 2-0 to Saints.
That's very noble of you, Adam. Well, listen, we're looking forward to the match. Klaus, Adam, an absolute pleasure to have your company on Saints Live. And of course, a huge thank you as well to those of you who have tuned in from across the globe. And don't forget, as always, we will be returning for the final whistle after the match to take you through all the game's major talking points. Kickoff is coming up at 3 p.m. We'll see you after. Bye for now.